My name is Mark. I'm 23, just graduated college last month, and if I'm being honest, I don't really know what the hell I'm supposed to do next. Life after graduation isn't what I pictured. No big job offer, no plan, just a stack of congratulatory cards and a vague sense of dread about what comes next. I've been dealing with anxiety for years. Nothing dramatic, just this constant gnawing hum in the background of my life. My best friend Tyler thought a weekend hiking trip would help. "Clear your head," he said. "Get out of town for a bit, man. Fresh air, no Wi-Fi, no job application staring you down." It sounded good in theory. We drove up to this old trail system about 2 hours outside the city. Split Rock Trail. One of those places people used to post Instagram selfies about a few years ago before it stopped trending. Long, winding paths through thick pines and rough rock formations. The kind of place where the trees grow so dense you can barely see the sky. We stopped for gas at this crumbling station about 10 miles out. Place looked like it hadn't been painted since the 70s. The guy behind the counter didn't say a word, just stared at us with these pale, washed-out eyes as we paid for water and trail mix. Tyler joked about it the moment we got back in the car, but it left a weird taste in my mouth. Should have paid more attention to it. It was late afternoon by the time we parked and started out. A little cloudy, the air sharp with the smell of wet earth and pine needles. I remember feeling weirdly detached, like I was watching my own feet move down the dirt path. Tyler kept cracking jokes, trying to lighten the mood. Typical Tyler, always loud, always a smartass. And honestly, it helped. For a while. A couple miles in, we passed this old wooden sign that said Trail 14 closed, nailed to a tree, but the path beyond it was still clear. No tape, no barricade. Tyler, being Tyler, decided to ignore it. I hesitated. Something about that crooked sign, weather-faded and half hanging off its nail, unsettled me. But I didn't want to be that guy, the anxious buzzkill. So I followed. About 20 minutes in, the trail narrowed and the air changed. It's hard to explain. The woods got quieter. Not peaceful quiet, the kind where you realize you can't hear any birds anymore, just the wind brushing against branches and the crunch of your own boots on dead leaves. That was the first thing that didn't sit right. Then, about 100 yards ahead, we saw a man standing near a tree. He was older, maybe mid-50s, in a weathered brown jacket, worn cargo pants, and a faded orange hunting cap. He didn't have that look of a hiker or a camper. More like someone who'd been out here for days, maybe weeks. We slowed down as we approached. Tyler gave him a casual wave. "Hey man, see anything out here?" The guy didn't answer, didn't even smile. His eyes flicked over us. Cold, calculating. Something in my gut twisted. Tyler chuckled awkwardly and kept walking. I followed, but I glanced back once. The guy was still watching us, and worse. He was lifting a pair of old binoculars to his face, following our path through the trees. I told myself he was probably just a weird local. Maybe a squatter, or worse, a fugitive hiding out here. But my skin crawled. I should have turned around then, told Tyler we needed to leave, but I didn't. A minute later, I heard a sharp, dry snap, like a branch breaking underfoot. Only, it wasn't near us. It came from somewhere off to our left, deeper in the trees, too heavy for a deer. I spun, scanning the undergrowth, but saw nothing. When I looked at Tyler, he was still trying to force a grin, but his eyes had gone tight. We picked up our pace, heading for the clearing by Split Rock. It wasn't far, just a few hundred yards ahead. Tyler still tried to joke about it, but his voice had that tight, forced edge to it. When we reached the clearing, the sun was slipping fast behind the hills. Shadows stretched long across the ground. And then we heard it. A sharp, unmistakable crack. Not a branch snapping. A rifle shot. It hit a tree trunk maybe 10 feet from where Tyler stood. Splinters exploded from the bark. We both froze for half a second. Then Tyler shouted, "Jesus, run!" And we bolted. I don't remember making the decision to run. My legs just moved. Another shot rang out, this one closer. Branches whipped my face. I stumbled once, nearly eating dirt, then scrambled back up. We didn't stick together. Instinct scattered us like panicked animals. I veered left, ducking low and weaving between trees, heart hammering against my ribs. I could still hear footsteps behind me. Not fast, not frantic, measured, tracking steps. A third shot cracked through the dusk. I couldn't tell if it was aimed at me or Tyler. The world narrowed to the pounding of my pulse and the desperate ache in my lungs. At one point, I risked a glance back, and I saw him. Moving through the trees like he owned them. A rifle casually resting in his hands, not running. He didn't need to. He was closing the distance like someone used to chasing people down. Someone hiding out in these woods for a reason. I ducked behind a thick pine trunk, biting back a gasp. A fourth shot, this one way off to my right. That had to be Tyler. Please God, let him still be moving. I stayed there, crouched in the undergrowth, trying to steady my breathing, hands shaking. And then I heard his voice. Low, drawling. Closer than it should have been. Come on out now. Don't make it worse. The kind of voice you knew didn't bluff. I forced myself to move, crawling low through the brush until I reached a slope. It dropped down into a narrow gully. Risky, but better than staying where I was. As I slid down, a pale scrap of cloth snagged on a branch nearby. It looked like a torn-off piece of a flannel sleeve, darkened with something that might have been old blood. I didn't stop to look. Dirt and leaves filled my jacket. Branches tore at my arms. At the bottom, I scrambled up the other side and darted into thicker cover. I didn't hear any more shots. Didn't see Tyler. Didn't hear him. Only the wind through the trees and my own ragged breathing. The sky above had gone a deep, bruised purple. I moved in fits and starts, pausing behind trees, listening. Every snapping twig made my skin crawl. Finally, after what felt like hours, the trees thinned. I stumbled out onto the gravel parking lot, every muscle screaming. Our car sat alone, headlights on, engine running. Tyler was there, slumped against the driver's side door, pale, bleeding from a scrape on his cheek. He looked at me and just said, "Get in, now." We didn't waste a second. As we tore out of the lot, headlights cutting through the dark, I dared one last glance back. There he was, standing at the edge of the woods, that orange hunting cap catching the light, and even from that distance I swear I saw him grin. We didn't go to the police, didn't report a thing. Who would believe us? Two college kids trespassing on a closed trail, claiming some guy with a rifle tried to hunt us down. But I don't hike anymore, and I never take the back roads home. Because out there are people who'll do anything to stay hidden, and if you cross their path, you're not a person, you're a problem.
We just wanted a break. A quiet week away, a rented farmhouse, tucked into the hills of North Carolina. Just me, my wife Laura, and our two kids, Amber 9 and Liam 6. No screens, no traffic, just birdsong, bonfires and board games.
It was remote. 20 minutes of winding gravel road to reach it. The last 5 with no cell signal. The kind of place where stars look close enough to touch. You'd think peace lives in places like that. But sometimes, quiet hides worse things. The house sat at the edge of a dense tree line. Old woods, thick with moss and shadow. The listing had called it a nature lover's dream. Wide porch, wood-burning fireplace, open beams across the ceiling. Inside, it smelled like cedar and something faintly medicinal, like whatever was here before us had been cleaned just a little too hard, too recently. Laura and I had both been running on fumes. Work, school events, family drama. Our lives had become a blur of commitments and alarms. We wanted to remember what it felt like to sit still together, to hear our kids laugh without screens between us. That dream soured on the second night. It started with a sound. Something heavy brushing past the side of the house around 2 in the morning. Laura shook me awake and said, "There's someone outside." I got up, grabbed the fire poker from the hearth, and checked every window. Every shadow, every corner. Nothing. I told her it was probably deer, maybe raccoons. She didn't sleep after that. Neither did I. I stayed by the front window until the sky lightened, watching for movement, listening for more. All I saw was fog curling along the tree line. The next morning, we found boot prints in the soft earth below the kids' window. Not hiking boots, work boots, deep treads, large, too large. My stomach sank. I checked the doors, then the phone. No dial tone. The landline was dead too. The cold unease from the night before now wrapped around my ribs like a vice. We packed the kids in the car and drove straight into town. The sheriff's office was small. One desk, one sleepy deputy sipping gas station coffee. I explained what we'd seen. He gave us a polite nod, said he'd look into it, but that folks around here keep to themselves. "You city folk don't understand these hills," he said, pausing just long enough for it to feel like a warning or a dismissal. He handed me a pamphlet on wildlife safety. Told me not to wander off the property. Didn't ask for a statement. We decided to go back. Maybe we really were just city folks, like the sheriff said. Maybe we were spooked by the dark, the silence, the space. Oh, we were going to regret this. That night, the porch light flickered and went out. Then came the scratching. Not claws, metal, deliberate. At the back windows. Laura clutched my arm. I grabbed the poker again, heart pounding. I could see her reflection in the dark glass, eyes wide, breath short. I told her we'd make another trip to town in the morning, stay in a motel, somewhere with neighbors. When the scratching finally stopped, I dashed out to the car to bring it closer to the front door where Laura and the kids were waiting, but it wouldn't start. I popped the hood. The battery cables had been cut. Clean, precise. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. We were trapped. We didn't sleep at all. The house felt like a target, a place to be breached. I sat in the living room with the poker in one hand, my old army flashlight in the other. Laura locked herself in the kids' room with the shotgun we found above the fireplace. It hadn't been loaded, but I found 2 shells in a drawer marked emergency. I hated the fear in her eyes. I hated that I couldn't explain what was happening or why someone would do this to strangers. Day 3. No signal, no help, no more pretending. We knew we were being hunted. We rationed food and water, tried to keep the kids distracted. I read the same bedtime story twice that night, voice shaking. Amber kept asking if we'd go home soon. Liam wanted to sleep in our bed. I let him. When the generator sputtered and died just after sundown, we made the decision. It had been humming steady since we arrived, but something must have drained it or tampered with it. Either way, we weren't staying another night. The silence after the generator died felt final, like the house itself had given up. I stared into the pitch-black hallway, realizing we weren't staying another night. Not because we were scared, but because we were no longer alone. We packed only what we needed. Flashlight, compass, 1 water bottle per person, granola bars, and my hunting knife. I wrapped it tight in cloth and strapped it to my belt. We told the kids it was an adventure, a hike, a nighttime game. Laura carried Liam. I held Amber's hand. We left through the back, straight into the woods. The forest swallowed us quickly. It was nearly silent. No birds, no wind, just twigs snapping underfoot and breath catching in our throats. The sky was moonless. My flashlight's beam looked weak against the black. We moved fast, sticking close to the compass reading, southwest toward the road. I tried to stay calm, scanning for movement with every step. After half a mile, I spotted them through the trees. At first, just shadows. But then I saw details, jackets, weapons, the purposeful way they moved. Both men. One had a rifle slung over his shoulder. The other carried something long and sharp, maybe a machete. They were flanking us, driving us in a direction. Laura's eyes locked with mine. "Are we being herded?" she whispered, her voice tight with fear. I nodded once. We changed course, sharply northeast, heading for higher ground, hoping the elevation would buy us sightlines, options. That's when the shot rang out. Not aimed at us, into the air. "A warning!" the kids screamed. I scooped Amber into my arms. We ran, over roots and rocks, under low branches. Laura slipped once, catching herself with a grunt, but never stopping. Liam started crying, sharp, panicked sobs that echoed too loud in the dead forest. Laura hushed him, pressing his face into her shoulder as we kept moving. But I saw it, a flicker of movement through the trees. One of them had heard. I don't know how long we ran, 30 minutes, an hour. Time stretched like wet cloth, slow and heavy. The second shot came. Closer, closer than it should have been. They were tracking us, slowly, patiently. I saw an old creek bed ahead and pulled everyone down into it. We crouched under an overhang, hearts slamming against our ribs. I whispered to Laura, "They're not chasing us to rob us." She nodded. "They're hunting us for sport." And I knew she was right. That's when we made the plan. We'd split, just for 5 minutes. I'd draw them off, lead them west. She'd take the kids east, toward the power lines we'd seen from the car earlier. "If you find the tower, follow the line. It'll lead to the road." She grabbed my face, kissed me, nodded once, and then we ran. Different directions. I don't remember being scared anymore, just cold and angry and alert. I made noise. I wanted them to follow me. I threw a rock into a thicket, then bolted uphill, slid down one side of a gully, grazed my palm on a rock, didn't stop. I stopped at a ridge and crouched under brush. Waited. Footsteps. A figure. I recognized the cap, the rifle, the swagger. I waited until he was close. Too close. Then I leapt, caught him by surprise, drove my shoulder into his side, sent us both tumbling. The rifle skidded away. We scrambled, fought. He was bigger, stronger. But I had something he didn't, everything to lose. I headbutted him, hard. He went limp. I grabbed the rifle, ran. I found Laura and the kids 10 minutes later, just beyond the tree line, by the utility road. A delivery truck had stopped, helped them inside. The driver had seen Laura running with the kids and instinctively pulled over, said she looked like she was running from something terrible. He was right. The driver called the state police. The second man was never caught. But they found trail cameras in the woods, makeshift blinds. One of them had recorded our family. Dozens of stills, dates, times, notes. It was a game to them. To one of them, at least. We never went back for our things. We never vacationed remotely again. Laura still checks every window before bed, locks every door, even in hotels. Amber's quieter now. Liam won't sleep without a nightlight. And me? I still flinch at the sound of snapping twigs. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed just one more night. Then I shake the thought loose, like a spider from my collar. Because I know exactly how that story ends. But we got out, together, and in the end, that was all that mattered.
My name's Kara, and I'm 28 now. This happened back when I was in college, around 20 or 21, back when I still thought camping was romantic and that guys in flannel shirts were automatically trustworthy. I know better now. I was dating this guy, Mason. He was sweet, solid, one of those guys who loved the outdoors in a very dad-core kind of way, hiking, fishing, building a fire without a lighter. He found peace in dirt and trees. I found anxiety. But I went camping with him anyway, just the two of us. No cell service, no people, just a little state forest campground about 3 hours from campus. I figured I could handle 2 nights of playing along, pretending the bugs didn't bother me, pretending the dark didn't make my skin crawl. We arrived late afternoon, set up camp, made a little fire, and played cards by lantern light. It was actually kind of nice. The sky was so clear you could see everything, the stars, your breath, even your thoughts. Mason gave me this little emergency whistle. 3 short bursts, he said. That's the universal distress signal. You ever get lost or if anything weird happens, you blow that, I'll find you. We joked about it.
I put it on a lanyard around my neck, more fashion than function. I woke up around 4 a.m. the first night. At first, I thought it was the cold or a weird dream, but then I realized what had really pulled me out of sleep. Far away, faint, but deliberate. I froze, rolled onto my side and nudged Mason. He rubbed his eyes. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," I whispered. 3 whistles. We unzipped the tent and stuck our heads out. The woods were quiet. Still. Too still. Another faint 3-blast whistle, but from a different direction. Mason grabbed his flashlight and boots. "Could be someone in trouble," he said. And yeah, that made sense. It was a state forest. Maybe someone had gotten turned around hiking late, or their campsite was messed up by animals. Or maybe someone was just being dumb. Drunk college kids are not known for their wisdom. Still, it didn't feel right. We followed the sound deeper into the woods. Mason kept calling out, "Hello? You all right? You need help?" No answer. We walked maybe 10 minutes. The beam of the flashlight jittered over roots and trunks. I kept glancing behind us. Every crunch of leaves felt too loud. Then, another whistle. Closer. Too close. We froze. Mason scanned with the flashlight, and that's when I saw it. A person, maybe 30 feet away, hood up, half behind a tree, standing completely still. They had something silver in their hand. A whistle. And then they ran, not at us, but around us, flanking. We ran. Branches tore at my sleeves. I lost a glove. We didn't talk, just sprinted toward the faint orange glow of our dying fire. As we ran, I kept expecting to hear footsteps behind us, but there was only silence. Too much silence, like we were being watched from the dark. The tent came into view like a lifeline. We dove in, zipped it shut, and sat there panting. Mason grabbed the hatchet from our gear. I curled up, clutching the whistle on my chest. We should have left right then, but it was pitch black out. We didn't know the trail well, and part of us, maybe the stupid part, still hoped it was just some sick prank, that if we stayed quiet, it'd pass. We didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, the woods looked normal. That's the scariest part. Nothing looked disturbed, no footprints, no trash, just mist curling in the trees and birds chirping like nothing had happened. Mason kept saying maybe it was a messed up joke, maybe someone with a twisted sense of humor trying to scare campers. I didn't buy it. We debated leaving, but it would have taken hours to pack, and we were both too tired to drive safely. Mason said we'd leave if anything else weird happened. I nodded, but I already knew. I wasn't sleeping again. My body was still there, but my mind hadn't left those trees. All day we were off. I barely touched my food. Mason kept glancing at the tree line. Every bird call or snap of twigs made us twitch. At one point, I walked a few yards into the woods to pee, and I swear I heard something move just out of sight. I hurried back, heart pounding. That night, we didn't make a fire. We just sat inside the tent playing cards and pretending to be normal. Mason slept with the hatchet. I had the whistle looped around my wrist like a bracelet. I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, it was dark, and there were footsteps. Slow, crunching, deliberate, outside the tent. Mason snapped awake, turned off the flashlight. We listened. My pulse was in my throat. The footsteps stopped, right next to us, and then, one whistle blast. 2 more, 3 total. I clapped a hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. Mason unzipped the tent and jumped out, swinging the hatchet and yelling into the dark. Nothing. Or maybe someone hidden, just out of range. He turned to me, pale-faced. "We're leaving. Now." We packed what we could in seconds. Left the tent, our mugs, everything. I didn't care, I just wanted pavement and headlights. We hit the trail. We didn't use our flashlights. Embarked. We didn't talk. But I heard them. Off to our sides. Moving when we moved. Mirroring. I turned once. A shape ducked behind a tree. Not running. Crawling. Mason shoved me forward. "Don't stop."
When we saw the car, I almost cried. He fumbled the keys. My hands were shaking too hard to help. Then, loud, right behind us. Something crashed against the car. A rock? A brick? The back window cracked. Mason got the door open, shoved me in, and hit the gas like his life depended on it. Because it did. I looked back once. 3 figures in the trail, just standing, watching. We didn't report it. What would we even say? Someone scared us with a whistle? We didn't even know where we'd been exactly. Mason and I broke up not long after. Not because of that trip exactly. But after something like that, you can't really go back to normal. Every time I looked at him, I saw that night in the trees. I haven't been camping since. But I still have the whistle. It's on my keychain. Sometimes I catch myself gripping it a little too tight when I walk home alone at night. And I still flinch when I hear a whistle in the distance.